right, now that we've got the camera flipped around and we're ready to start again, in Chapter 1, page 6, we're going to start the discussion with the 3 types of research studies. And I can tell you that most research studies fall into one of 3 general categories: descriptive studies, correlational studies, and experimental studies. Now, descriptive studies describes a situation. It does just what the name in the title says. Describes a situation. It might give us information about the characteristics of students, teachers, or schools. It might also provide information about how often certain events or behaviors occur. It allows us to draw conclusions about the way things are, the current state of affairs. We know exactly what's going on. There's also 2 types of descriptive studies. One is quantitative, which yields numbers, and the other one is qualitative, and that's a non-numeric information that's provided. All right, the next one is correlational studies. The correlational study explores possible relationships among different things. It tells us the extent to which 2 characteristics or phenomena tend to be found together or to change together. Remember the word correlational. Correlations, it gives us correlations between 2 variables, allowing us to make predictions about one variable, but only if we know the status of the other. And then, although correlational studies demonstrate that a relationship exists, remember, they can never tell us for certain why they exist. Okay? Now, the last one is experimental studies. Experimental study is a study in which the researcher somehow changes or manipulates one or more aspects of the environment. That's often called an independent variable. And then the researcher measures the effects of such changes on something else. Now, that something else that's being affected is often called the dependent variable. It's usually some aspect of student behavior, perhaps the end of the semester grades. It could be the skill in executing complex physical movement. It could be persistence in trying to solve a difficult math problem, or the ability to interact appropriately with the peers. It often involves 2 or more groups that are treated differently. It also enables us to draw conclusions about causation, about why behaviors occur. And the experimental studies are the only one that allows us to identify the possible factors influencing behaviors. We are also more effective as teachers when we are confident that certain things that we do in the classroom will, in some kind of a cause and effect manner, have some positive impact on students' learning and behaviors. Now, 2 experimental studies, because it tells us why the behavior exists, the experimental studies tend to be the one that the schools use most often, and that you probably use more often as well, even though there's room for all 3 types. A couple examples of experimental studies. One might be, you're in the classroom, you're going to conduct a study where you give some randomly chosen students a very organized study guide. Then you turn around and give another randomly chosen group of students the same study guide, but it's presented without any rhyme or reason. It's just all over the page. You as the teacher discover that the students with the organized notes learn better, and that makes sense. They should learn better. So maybe you might have a list of words that you want the students to memorize for whatever. Maybe you're working on some type of memory game. You might give a list of words, and on one group, a group of students would get all words in alphabetical order. The other group would get perhaps that same list of words, but not in alphabetical order, no rhyme or reason, and then you see the difference. A second example of an experimental study might be 2 groups of expectant mothers. They go into the hospital, they complete a survey because the hospitals want to find out whether the mothers had taken drugs, whether that be legal or illegal during their pregnancy time. After the babies were born, research concluded that the mothers who took drugs during pregnancy caused their babies to achieve abnormal development during the child's early years of life. Now, we've kind of already know that, and we've heard that already. 3 studies, 3 types of research studies: descriptive studies, correlational studies, experimental studies. You're going to be getting familiar with all 3 in this journey to become a teacher.